Here in Folsom, a city experiencing rapid growth. During this change, city leaders say that they are facing a constrained budget, staffing shortages, and millions of dollars in needed infrastructure improvements. This as the city's growth is placing more demand on public services like parks, police, and fire. ABC 10's Becca Habegger asked what the city is doing and why voters rejected one possible solution in November.
The sounds of business are bustling here at Shannon Family Automotive in Folsom.
Just a really supportive business environment.
Owner Colleen Shannon and her husband started the business in 2011 with just one employee and 2 bays. They now employ 17 and have 13 bays. She, her husband, and their 4 kids live just minutes away from the shop on Sibley Street.
It's not just a place we do business, it's definitely our community and our home.
A community she loves, but now sees strained as growth places extra demand on services and the city's budget. According to the city's newly published annual comprehensive financial report, the 3 biggest budget constraints are rising operational costs, aging infrastructure with no dedicated funding source, and the trend of sales tax growth flattening. People are spending less as money gets tight, and more of the shopping they are doing is online. Joe Gagliardi, president and CEO of Choose Folsom, says when someone shops online, the city gets even less.
I think people need to recognize that when you shop local, the sales tax money that the city gets stays local. When you shop online, it goes into a central pool and then is redistributed based on a percentage.
City leaders say Folsom's general fund budget is about $115 million, and 60% of that revenue comes from property and sales tax. Comparing fiscal year 2024 to the prior fiscal year, property tax revenue increased more than 10%. The city says that's due to a growth in home values. But local sales tax revenue dropped. This past fiscal year, the city of Folsom received nearly 2% less in local sales tax than the previous year. Currently, shoppers in Folsom pay 7.75% in sales tax, which goes to a combination of the state, county, and other public entities. Just one of those percentage points stays with the city of Folsom.
A recent attempt to increase local sales tax revenue failed when nearly 2/3 of voters said no to Measure G. That was back in November. It would have increased the local sales tax from 1% to 2%.
The text of the measure said it would have raised an extra $29 million per year for the city, which would be divided among various city services like police, fire, parks, and road maintenance. Most voters chose not to raise the tax, with Measure G opponents calling it ballot box budgeting. Colleen Shannon was among those in support of Measure G.
As a small business owner, I don't like more taxes, I don't like more government oversight, but I think that when you weigh it against the cost of, slower police response times, or our trails not being maintained, or problems that come up in the city that we're just not able to address in the way that keeps the quality of life, then I think that a sales tax initiative would be an extremely reasonable option. And since it didn't pass, I think it's really important for residents to get more involved.
Choose Folsom also advocated for the passage of Measure G.
The people spoke and didn't want to raise the taxes, so it means we got to be a little more innovative.
The city of Folsom does have a rainy day fund, and it's required to pass a balanced budget every year, but that means delaying needed maintenance, or, as it did in this year's budget, choosing to spend some of those reserve funds on overdue repairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
In her State of the City address earlier this year, Mayor Sarah Aquino said the city is eyeing short and long-term solutions, including the sale of surplus property and the activation of underutilized properties.
One of the strategies is to really enhance our tourism effort to get more people to come here.
The city estimates about 40% of the sales tax revenue that does come to the city is generated from visitors, especially with attractions like Folsom's Historic District, Folsom Lake and Lake Natoma, and shopping centers like Folsom Premium Outlets and Palladio, which is celebrating its 15th year in the community. General Manager Gloria Wright says when she started at Palladio 14 years ago,
our occupancy rate was 30%. And now we're at 95%.
Wright says the growth of Folsom is helping to attract new businesses, even some national retailers who wouldn't previously consider Folsom.
Once the south of 50 construction actually started happening, people realized that this is a three-dimensional, 360-degree area where there is growth and can sustain having those national tenants here that are so sought after, like at the Galleria. So we're pretty proud of that.
Ultimately, Gagliardi says he considers Folsom's current budget constraints to be necessary growing pains.
We're not the only community feeling that. Those that don't have growth, I think, are really suffering even more than us. At least we have the prospect of what's coming in more opportunities.
In Folsom, Becca Habiger, ABC 10.